It's 2:14 in the morning. One baby is asleep in a kind of miracle silence, arms flung out, completely surrendered to the night. Another baby, the same age, maybe in the same family, maybe fed with the same devotion and loved with the same intensity, has already cried 3 times. And in that dark room, a thought appears that almost no parent escapes. Why does their baby sleep through the night? And mine doesn't. It sounds like a simple question. It isn't. Because what looks from the outside like luck or routine, or a good sleeper versus a difficult baby, is often something much deeper. Something happening underneath behavior, underneath habit, underneath even sleep itself. The truth is that nighttime doesn't just reveal how tired a baby is. It reveals how that baby's nervous system is developing, how their brain handles separation, how their body processes hunger and sensation, and how prepared they are in that moment of life to drift away from the people who regulate them. In other words, this isn't just about sleep. It's about early human psychology in one of its most vulnerable forms. Most people reach for the obvious explanation first. Maybe one baby has better sleep habits. Maybe one parent found the right method. Maybe one baby is just easier. And to be fair, those explanations feel reasonable because routines do matter. Environment does matter, and babies really do differ. But that surface-level story leaves out the most important part. Because when people say a baby sleeps through the night, they're often talking as if the baby has achieved some miniature adult milestone, as if they've learned independence, self-control, and maybe even emotional resilience. That's usually not what's happening. In infant sleep research, sleeping through the night can mean something surprisingly modest, sometimes just a 5 or 6 hour stretch. Not 12 uninterrupted hours, not a fully mature sleep system, just a longer gap. And that matters because one of the most misleading ideas in parenting is that a baby who sleeps longer is automatically more settled, more advanced, or more securely attached. Sometimes they're simply at a different point of biological timing. Adults tend to think of sleep as one thing. You're awake, then you're asleep. But for babies, sleep is far more unstable, more active, more fragmented, and more dependent on systems that are still under construction. At birth, a baby's circadian rhythm, the internal clock that helps tell day from night, is immature. The brain system involved in timing sleep and wakefulness is there, but it's not yet running with adult precision. Melatonin rhythms are still emerging. Cortisol rhythms are still organizing. Light exposure, feeding patterns, and repeated daily cues slowly help shape that clock over the first months. So when a very young baby wakes at night, it doesn't automatically mean something is wrong. Often it means the biology of nighttime is still becoming nighttime. And then there's sleep architecture itself. Babies spend a much larger proportion of sleep in active sleep, what we'd call REM-like sleep, where breathing changes, faces twitch, eyes move under the lids, little sounds escape, limbs jerk, and the boundary between sleeping and waking is much thinner than adults expect. Their sleep cycles are shorter, their transitions are bumpier, and their brains surface more easily. So a baby who wakes more often is not necessarily resisting sleep. They may simply be moving through a normal infant sleep pattern, with a nervous system that reaches full alertness more easily. This is why routine, while helpful, is never the whole story. Routine can support sleep. It cannot replace neurological maturation. And then there's hunger, which adults often underestimate because adult sleep is built around the clock, while infant biology is built around growth. Early on, babies have small stomachs, fast metabolisms, and intense developmental demands. Sometimes the wake-up really is about connection. Sometimes it is beautifully simple. Growth does not read the clock. But if biology explains part of the story, it still doesn't explain why 2 babies, same age, same bedtime, same loving home, can sleep so differently. This is where temperament enters. Researchers like Alexander Thomas and Stella Chess spent years studying how babies come into the world with different temperamental styles. Some are more adaptable, some are more reactive. Some transition easily from one state to another. Some register every shift more intensely. And nighttime is full of shifts: a drop in temperature, a bubble of gas, a wet diaper, a noise in the hall, a lighter stage of sleep, a missing body nearby, a tiny surge of hunger. For one baby, those signals barely cross the threshold. For another, they ring the alarm. This is one of the deepest truths behind sleep that parents often miss. Some babies are not bad at sleeping. They are more sensitive to waking. That sounds subtle. But it changes everything, because now the baby is no longer being judged by the outcome, how many hours they stayed asleep. Instead, we start looking at the system underneath. How easily does this baby become activated? How hard is it for their body to move from alert to calm? How intensely do they experience internal and external change? A baby with a more vigilant nervous system can be healthy, loved, securely attached, and still wake often. In fact, sometimes what parents call a light sleeper is really a baby whose brain is noticing more. And this is also where the myth of early self-soothing gets complicated. People often look at the baby who falls back asleep alone and imagine an advanced emotional skill, as if that baby has learned, at 2 or 3 months old, how to regulate sadness, fear, frustration, and separation. But emotional self-regulation is not something a newborn or young infant does in the adult sense. The brain systems involved in regulating big feelings are nowhere near mature. What often looks like self-soothing is something more basic. The baby didn't wake fully, or their physiological arousal dropped before distress built too high. That is not a moral achievement. It is not evidence of stronger character. It is often just a different nervous system profile, combined with timing. And then we get to the layer that can feel most emotionally charged: attachment. This is where parents tend to carry a lot of guilt. If my baby wakes for me, am I creating dependency? If they don't wake for me, are we less bonded? If I respond too much, am I making it worse? If I respond too little, am I damaging something? The reason these questions feel so loaded is that nighttime strips parenting down to its rawest form. There is no performance, no audience, just a baby in the dark asking something with their body. John Bowlby, the founder of attachment theory, argued that proximity seeking under stress is not a flaw in human development. It is part of the design. Mary Ainsworth's work later helped show that security is built not from perfection, but from repeated experiences of a caregiver being available enough, responsive enough, predictable enough. That matters at night, because for a baby, waking isn't always just waking. Sometimes it is the nervous system checking a very old question. When I lose the world for a moment, does it come back? When I become uncomfortable, am I alone in that? When I surface into distress, is there a bigger, calmer body nearby that helps me land again? Psychologists call this co-regulation. In plain language, it means babies borrow calm before they can build much of their own. A warm chest, a familiar smell, the cadence of a voice, the rhythm of being held. These are not sentimental extras. They are regulatory tools. They help shift heart rate, breathing, muscle tension, and arousal. They help a baby's body remember safety. This is the reframe many exhausted parents desperately need. A baby who wakes for you is not always asking to be entertained, trained, fixed, or weaned from dependence. Sometimes they are reaching for the only nervous system big enough to help organize their own. And now the story gets even deeper, because night waking often changes not when sleep gets worse, but when the mind gets more sophisticated. This is why a baby can seem to sleep relatively well for a while, then suddenly start waking more, crying harder, or refusing the easy drift they used to accept. On the surface, it feels like regression. Underneath, it can be development. Jean Piaget gave one piece of this a dry academic name: object permanence. In real life, it means your baby starts realizing that people still exist, even when they can see them. That sounds small. It is enormous, because now absence has weight. Before that shift, you disappear and the baby may not hold you clearly in mind. After that shift, you disappear and the baby knows you are somewhere else, which means the night changes. Sleep is no longer just a physical state, and it can become a psychological separation. And that is why some babies start protesting bedtime or waking more intensely just as their cognition is growing. The same brain that is becoming more social, more aware, more attached, and more capable of memory is also becoming more capable of missing you. The same baby who delights when you walk back into the room during the day may struggle more when you vanish into the dark at night. That is not broken sleep. That is an awakening mind. Add mobility to that, rolling, crawling, pulling up, and the brain has even more reason to destabilize for a while. Big developmental shifts often reorganize sleep because the nervous system is busy mastering new skills, new fears, new maps of the world. So the baby who suddenly wakes more at 9 months is not necessarily moving backward. They may be more aware than ever. And then there's one more layer that makes the whole picture even more human. Human babies are born unusually unfinished. Compared with many other mammals, we arrive neurologically immature, deeply dependent, unable to regulate much on our own for a long time. We pay for our extraordinary brains by being born before those brains are fully organized. That means human infancy is, in many ways, a prolonged process of external regulation. We are soothed from the outside before we can soothe from the inside. Anthropologist James McKenna has long argued that, from an evolutionary perspective, frequent waking and proximity seeking makes sense. In the environment our species evolved in, a baby who stayed close, fed often and signaled distress when separated, was not malfunctioning. That baby was adaptive. So when a modern parent sits at 3 a.m. feeling like the baby is doing something wrong, there is a painful irony there. Often the baby is expressing ancient biology in a world that expects adult-like sleep far too early. That doesn't mean every wake-up is meaningful in some poetic sense. Sometimes a wake-up is just a wake-up. Babies are people, not symbols. But across many nights, patterns do tell us something. They tell us how maturation is unfolding, how sensitivity is wired, how separation is being felt, how the body and brain are learning to settle. There is, however, an important distinction to make. Fragmented sleep can be developmentally normal, but persistent sleep difficulty with signs of real discomfort is something else. And if a baby seems to be in pain, struggles to breathe, snores heavily, arches, feeds poorly, has unusual daytime withdrawal, or sleep changes come with a broader change in well-being, that's worth real attention. Not panic, just attention. The key is to look at the whole child, not just the night. A baby who wakes often but is engaged, growing, connecting, and recovering with support may be showing a demanding but healthy developmental pattern. A baby whose sleep difficulties come with distress that seems physical, extreme, or out of character deserves curiosity beyond they're just a bad sleeper. And maybe that's the most useful question of all. Not, how do I get this baby to act like an adult? But what is this baby's sleep revealing about the stage they are in right now? Because once you see sleep that way, the entire emotional meaning changes. The night cry is no longer just an interruption. The early morning reach is no longer just a habit. The baby who startles awake is no longer just difficult. The baby who sleeps long stretches is no longer automatically more secure, more independent, or more advanced. Each baby is showing you a different combination of biology, temperament, cognition, and attachment in motion. Harvard's Center on the Developing Child uses the phrase serve and return for the back and forth exchanges that help wire a child's brain. Most people picture that in daylight, smiling, babbling, making eye contact, but it happens at night too. A stir, a cry, a pause, your voice, your arms, a breath that slows. That sequence teaches something. It teaches the brain what happens after activation. It teaches the body what relief feels like. It teaches the baby whether distress is a dead end or a bridge back to connection. And that is why this question, why some babies sleep through the night and others don't, has a deeper answer than most people expect. Some babies sleep longer because several systems line up sooner. Circadian rhythm, feeding, arousal thresholds, temperament, sensory processing, timing. Other babies wake more because those systems are still maturing, or because they feel change more intensely, or because their developing mind now understands separation in a new way. Neither baby is random. Neither baby is a verdict. Neither baby is telling the full story of your parenting. They are telling the story of development, one night at a time. So if you are living with the baby who wakes, the truth may be more comforting than the labels people throw around. Your baby may not be broken at sleep. Your baby may be doing one of the most human things possible, asking, in the only way they can, whether the world is still there when they cannot hold it together by themselves. And if you have a baby who sleeps in long stretches, that's not something to feel guilty about either. It simply means a different pattern is unfolding. The deeper lesson is not that one baby is better. It's that ordinary nights contain extraordinary information. So I'm curious, was your baby the one who slept in long stretches, or the one who seemed to need you again and again? And looking back, did those nights make more sense once you saw who your baby was becoming? If you like this kind of deeper psychology behind everyday baby behavior, subscribe. This channel is for people who want more than tips. It's for people who want to understand the mind that's forming underneath the moment.